Hi all, this is Simona Rich. In this video, I will share with you what I found out about how to tell from astrology whether you should be getting deep into spirituality, whether you should research occult, whether it's dangerous for you or not. So this information is extremely valuable because some people, they start meditation and other spiritual practices, and actually they evil entities may get in control of them, and then they lose direction in life. They lose even control of their own body, and this is shown. Such dangers are shown by astrological aspects. So I'm grateful to God to have come across astrological information from Rosicrucian order, because it's invaluable, and they also have a lot to say about medical astrology. So if you're interested in spiritual side of astrology as well as medical astrology, I highly advise you to read Rosicrucian materials on astrology. So in this video, I'll present my findings about the spiritual side of astrology and what your natal chart shows about it, whether you should get deep into occult, deep into spiritual things, or it's better to do it with much caution, or maybe deep meditations and such spiritual practices are even dangerous for you. So I hope that this will be very useful to you.
So I found a lot of information about the dangers, potential dangers of opening up to the spiritual world in the book called Message of the Stars, written by Max Heindel, who was a Rosicrucian, and I highly recommend this book, Message of the Stars. It's such an amazing book. It has also a lot of information on medical astrology for those who are interested in this. So I'm going to read out what it says about Neptune, but the information about Neptune is found in quite a few places of this book. But here is the summary, the general things that one needs to know about the planet Neptune, especially to do with spirituality. We see the expression of this teachings tell us that there is in addition a third factor in universal advancement, namely epigenesis, the faculty whereby the spirit may choose a course that is altogether new and independent of what has gone before. We see the expression of this in all kingdoms relative to form, but in the human kingdom, epigenesis expresses itself as genius, a creative instinct, which makes man more akin to the divine than any other of his accomplishments. This is developed under the Neptune ray, when that planet is well placed in the horoscope, meaning that then the person can choose his own destiny. There is, of course, also such a thing as an evil genius, a destructive faculty developed under an afflicted Neptune, which is so interesting. Only the most sensitive people in the world feel the rays of Uranus and Neptune at the present time. To feel, keep in mind this book was written quite a long time ago. Now people are more sensitive to these planets. To feel these vibrations, the connection between the dense physical body and the vital body, which is made of ether, must be rather loose. For where these two vehicles are firmly interlocked, the person is always of a materialistic turn and cannot respond to the higher and more subtle vibrations from the spiritual world. But when the stellar rays from these two planets impinge upon a person whose vital body is loosely connected with the physical, we have what is called a sensitive. The direction and quality of this faculty depends upon the placement and the aspects of the two planets mentioned, however. Those who are particularly under the domination of an adverse aspect of the Uranian ray usually develop the more undesirable phases of clairvoyance and mediumship. So we can, for example, check some of the people who channel entities, whether they have any negative aspects of Uranus. So I made a list of them. Did I actually delete that list? I can't believe it. Seriously. Okay, I need to remember. It was Esther Hicks, Edgar Casey, Helen Schuckman, who wrote The Course in Miracles. Then Esther Hicks, Helen Schuckman, Edgar Casey, and also Erin Pavlina. I entered her details, but none of these people have the correct ascendant because I don't know their birth times. And I don't even know where Erin was born, so it's also very approximate. So here is an approximate chart of Erin Pavlina. We see her Sun and Mercury being in the sign of Cancer, and actually she's among all the intuitives, sensitives, are the one that has greatest development. In my opinion, the life is going to be quite good for her, except for love, unaspected Venus. She also could have problems with being very, very stubborn. But apart from that, even from Malefics, she receives positive rays. So she is going to handle her channeling of entities, and I don't even know if she channels entities. I know she's in touch with them, but she's able to handle it because we don't see any negative rays from planets such as Neptune and Uranus. She has a very well aspected Uranus. It conjuncts Jupiter, Moon, Pluto, Mars sextile Uranus, and sextile Uranus, Uranus sextile Neptune. So all these are very positive aspects. So this is, she is handling all these things well, and she should not be spiritually attacked, because it's told here that under the negative Uranian ray, people usually develop more undesirable phases of clairvoyance and mediumship. They easily become the prey of entities from the invisible world who have no regard for their victim's desire, even if in a weak manner these should protest. Such mediums are generally used in simple trance communications, and in a few cases known to the writer have lived very beautiful and happy lives because of implicit belief in the spirits that dominated them. So basically those spirits could be negative, but they really think that they are channeling something very positive, but those spirits use them. In these cases, the spirit controls were of a better class than usually met with. But as this Uranian faculty is built up through Mars and Venus, passion is prominent in such natures, and under the influence of obsessing spirits, many of these people are driven into gross immorality. Vampirism and kindred disreputable practices are also engendered by the perverse use of the Uranian ray in mediums. So people who have badly aspected Uranus are not advised to get in touch with spirits because they might be abused by spirits. Let's check Edgar Casey again. Like in Erin's case, you should ignore the ascendant. It's not correct. I did not know the birth time, so. But in the case of Edgar Casey, if we check Uranus, is actually negatively aspected. It has square to his moon, to his Pluto and midheaven. So he might, and also because of the fact that Moon is in conjunction with Neptune, he's very susceptible of being influenced by entities, and these negative rays of Uranus show that the kind of entities that he may be under control can sometimes be negative. And we know this to be the case because if you read, I did read his biography, and he did come under the influence of sometimes evil entities, and he was totally powerless against those entities. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4 a stellium of personal planets in Pisces, making him very passive. So entities do use people as such. And in his case, there is danger of him attracting negative entities, which is actually what actually happened to him if you read his biography. And now if we take Helen Conshockman, I don't know how to pronounce her surname, she is the author of The Course in Miracles. She channeled that book. And if we check her Uranus, it's also afflicted, and it has the opposition to Neptune. Both of these planets attract otherworldly entities. So Uranus afflicts her Sun and Neptune, and it squares, Saturn squares Uranus, Jupiter trine Uranus. Uranus is little helped only by the trine to Jupiter, benefic, but apart from that, he is very afflicted. So in her case, again, she should have been very careful, because she could attract negative entities to channel the material through. And of course, she could attract positive entities also. She has sextile, Jupiter sextile Neptune. But apart from that, she might have attracted negative entities. And also her Mars is in a bad location in Pisces, making her very passive, because already she has 3 planets in a passive sign of Cancer, and she has her energy placed in a passive sign of Pisces. And as you can see, all these sensitives, people who channel entities or are in touch with entities, either have energized Cancer signs like Sun in Cancer, or Pisces signs. So in the case of Erin Pavlina, her Cancer is energized. In the case of Edgar Casey, his Pisces is energized. In the case of Helen Schuckman, her Cancer is energized. And now we take the last example of Esther Hicks. Again, I don't know her ascendant because I don't know her birth time, but we can see that her Pisces is energized because Sun is in Pisces. And in her case, if we check Uranus, it has negative aspects, but it negatively aspects benefic. So and it has positive aspects from Uranus, but 2 malefics. So again, she may attract some questionable entities. There could be good entities and there could be bad entities that she attracts. And also for the fact that her moon squares Neptune, it shows that she may not be in control when entities want to channel something through her. She may not be even able to refuse, because sometimes she can be put under trance whether she wants that or not. And if we check moon of Helen Schuckman, she has semi-sextile to Neptune. This is a good aspect. It could mean that she was able to control when she wanted to channel those entities. And when it comes to Edgar Casey, his moon is conjunct Neptune, so it just means that he was almost always in touch with that other world. And when it comes to Erin Pavlina, the ex-wife of Steve Pavlina, that's how I know her. She again has sextile to Neptune. As you can see, people who are sensitive to the other world, they have some kind of connection. The moon representing the body has the connection with Neptune representing those entities, other worlds. And also Uranus represents otherworldly entities. So if we continue reading, Neptune may be said to represent the invisible worlds in more positive aspects, and those who come under the evil rays of this planet are therefore brought in touch with the most undesirable occupants of the invisible worlds. So basically here it's claimed that Uranus represents evil. Usually it could be bad entities, especially if Uranus is afflicted, getting in touch with a person, whilst Neptune is more about contacting other worlds rather than individual entities. Actual obsession, whereby the owner of a body is deprived of his vehicle, takes place under the ray of Neptune. The actual obsession, whereby the owner of a body is deprived of his vehicle, takes place under the ray of Neptune, and no materializing seance could ever be held if it were not for the stellar vibration. So, with an afflicted Neptune, actual spirit possession could take place. So that would be the case of Helen Schuckman and Esther Hicks, even more likely, because Neptune negatively aspects her moon. Magic, white or black, can never be put to practical use save under and because of this Neptunian vibration. Apart from this ray, it will remain theory, speculation, and book learning. Therefore, the initiates of every mystery school, spiritual seers who have full control of their faculty, and astrologers are amenable in varying degrees to the ray of Neptune. The black magician and the hypnotist, who is a twin brother to him, are also dependent upon the power of the stellar ray for use in their nefarious practices. The highest human development at the present time, namely the soul unfoldment, which is undertaken in the mystery temples through initiation, is directly the result of the Neptune ray. For just as evil configurations lay men liable to assault by invisible entities, so the good configurations of Neptune are particularly required to enable a man to unfold by initiation his whole soul powers and become a conscious agent in the invisible worlds. So, which means that although you may even get possessed by spirits, if in your natal chart you have Neptune negatively aspected, if it's positively aspected, that's a good sign, because that is what's required for spiritual progress. Although people who are very earthly, they will not feel the vibrations of Neptune, but the fact that it's well aspected shows that if they would try to spiritually grow, they would be greatly helped in doing that. Let us remember, however, that good or evil configurations are not the result of chance or luck, but are the product of our own past acts. The horoscope shows what we have earned by our past living, and therefore what we are entitled to in the present life. Moreover, it should always be kept in mind that the stars impel but do not compel. Because a man or woman has an evil configuration of Neptune or Uranus, it is not unavoidable that they should go into active evil mediumship and black magic, and thereby make life harder for themselves in the future. Their opportunity to do so and the temptation will come at certain times when the heavenly time markers point to the right hour on the clock of destiny. Then it's time to stand firm for the good and for the right. Being forewarned through a knowledge of astrology, one is also forearmed, and may the easier overcome when such an aspect culminates. Okay, so I think that's pretty much the end of what they say about Neptune. There is more information about it throughout this book, but I think this is now it's very clear from what it says that if you want to see if you can safely contact other worlds and safely spiritually develop by going into deep spirituality, by actually trying to contact entities of other worlds, you should be sure that it's safe for you to do so by looking at your natal chart to see if your Neptune or Uranus are positively aspected or not. And if you find them being afflicted, then you have to be very careful, and I would advise against going deep into meditation, for example, because it might be that you are, especially if you have heavy Cancer or Pisces signs, heavily energized Pisces or Cancer signs, it means that you actually could get under spirit control, and that's very dangerous. And we know people who go deep into spirituality, deep into Eastern practices like Indian practices, and then they get either they lose their minds or they become even afflicted in their body. So natal chart, knowing your natal chart can save you from these things. So I advise you to look at the aspects of Neptune as well as Uranus to see whether you can safely delve into things occult, or whether you should do so only by gathering information about it rather than doing spiritual practices to get yourself in touch with those entities. And even if you live a life that is completely moral, that's the only spirituality that you need to practice, because I see people who have dirty lives but they do deep spiritual practices, and it won't help them. They can meditate for hours in their room, but if they are nasty to other human beings, then they will not achieve anything beneficial spiritually, but actually they will end up attracting evil entities because they are becoming spiritually sensitive, but they are not changing their evil ways, and therefore they will attract evil entities that might actually start manifesting to them, and they might lose their minds. So the best thing to do is to focus on righting your wrongs in this life, being kind to others, working on bad character traits so that they are transformed, and only then, if your natal chart shows that you can safely do so, you should delve into deep spirituality.
So that's all I wanted to share with you in this video. I hope that it was useful to you, and if you have any more suggestions, comments, remarks to make with regards to this topic, then please leave a comment below this video. Thank you for watching. Take care.